Well, hello, GameSpot viewers, GameSpot readers, whatever you do on GameSpot. Hi, it's Kevin Van Ort here, and I'm seated, although you can't see us, with Brad Wardell from Stardock. And Brad, you're here to show us Galactic Civilization III, a project that's been in the making for some time now.
Yep. Well, yeah, it's been 4 years we've been working on it to build a brand new engine. We wanted to make a game, a sandbox game that had incredible scope, gigantic galaxies, hundreds of players, all kinds of craziness, so that players could really build their own interstellar civilization. Right. So Galactic Civilizations, it's a space strategy game set in our 23rd century. And the premise is that humans have developed faster than light drive. And the question the game asks is, what kind of civilization are we going to be? Because the galaxy is not empty. It is full of other civilizations. So when you first start the game does let you play of one of 9 major civilizations. So you have the Terran Alliance, who are based on Earth, and that's who we're going to play as. And then you have everyone from the Drengen, who are your, when I made them up back in the 80s, they're green space apes. So they have come a long way. They still look like green space apes. They still look a little
apey, but yeah.
And each one has their own. The interesting thing in Galactic Civilization III is that if you've ever played a Civilization game, these kinds of games have a tech tree. Well, in Galactic Civilizations, every single one of these races has their own technology tree. So it's a very, very different experience for each one. But you can also go and create your own civilization from scratch. And this is where, sandbox games tend to lend themselves towards modding. There's a really good city building game that recently came out that I'm not going to pitch here, but it's a great game. But
you should play City Skylines, is what he's saying.
Yes, indeed. But it really shows on how a sandbox game can be really fun, especially when you hand it to the modding community. So in this game, you can go in and literally create everything you might want about a civilization. How productive they are they handy? What do they look like? What their ships look like? Give them their own ships. So someone wants to make the Klingons, they could make the Klingons and then download the ships from some online and have that.
Now, it's interesting. You showed me that ship design, and the first thing I think of is there's a little bit of Enterprise, a little bit of Star Trek in that design. How conscious are you when you're creating, whether it be ships or races, sort of the iconic images that we have regarding what ships should look like, regarding what aliens should look like? Is that something you're conscious about when you create these?
Oh yeah, we try to make sure ours are pretty original, but there tends to be I have teased the team about, hey, look, it's the Millennium Falcon Enterprise type. Sometimes
it really is.
So it's an interesting thing because now all the ships that you see in the game, they're not like modeled. This is not someone did not make this with 3D Studio Max or what have you. The game actually comes with a ship designer, so you can make any type of ship. Someone I posted on Twitter the other day. Someone made Voltron. Literally Voltron.
Right.
So you can have Voltron. And then you can actually export them and 3D print them too if you really like your ship.
Oh, Lord.
And then when you're done with it, your race, well, what happens if you want to play against it? Well, you can each determine how the AI is going to use this. So this is like the underlying user interface for how the artificial intelligence system will make it so that you can literally make someone play a certain way. So because it's not very fun if you're playing against 10 or let's say you have 50 civilizations and they basically play the same and they talk the same. That gets very boring. So I'll go ahead and pick the humans. And I'll do the default settings. A medium galaxy, I can set up all kinds of different options. A new player can literally just come here and press start and be in the game, which is nice. In the old days, when in the older Galactic Civilizations, we kind of let our inner grognard take over, and it's like, oh no, you're not getting into the game until you have set up 50 different things. And you can, but you don't. You can, they have these nice defaults, and I can come in here and set up my opponents, and I got these set their intelligence levels for each one, and then pop by, it'll go and generate the galaxy.
And you can even limit victories if you want to make sure that the whole game is based on war. You can do that if you want to.
You can, and the game has a lot of different victory conditions. So so this is a background of the Terran Alliance. But the ways to win the game are, you can do, of course, conquer everyone, but you can also win through culture. If you actually build up enough culture to conquer the galaxy, you can actually see your cultural influence. That's what this little line around here is, my area of cultural influence. It's not a political boundary.
Right.
So if you take over enough of the galaxy with your culture, you can win the game if you have that set. Or you get a technological victory, or you get an ascension victory, which is these special resources. And you can also get a political alliance. That's where you ally with everyone. So at the beginning of the game, since I'm playing as the humans, it's the year 2242. And so the first, it's kind of, you can kind of tell when I first came up with the first Galactic back in many, many years ago, because the idea was, well, at the end of a certain strategy game, your colony ship goes off into space, right? And I always went, well, so now what? And here's your colony ship.
Space.
Right. Yes, what's beyond it, so to speak. And so I would set off my colony ship and go off into the galaxy. So I'm going to send off, so you literally have, here's the Oort cloud, there's Earth, there's Saturn, Mars. Mars, you can actually colonize in this if you want, which we do. In one of our other games, Off-World Trading Company, you do colonize Mars, which is nice. But we're going to send off the colony ship over here. And this ship here is your survey ship. There's lots of interstellar anomaly that I can go and acquire. Basically, it's your goodie hut finding ship.
Sure.
But there's all kinds of cool stuff there. And you also get a scout. So you can go off and start sending him off. So this is this is a small galaxy. So there's not very much. That's the entire map. And it doesn't seem very big until you're into it and you realize, oh my gosh, there's a lot to do.
I do have one question, though, about victory conditions, since we were on that subject before. And it strikes me that there's suddenly a resurgence of 4X games recently. A lot of things showing up on Steam and in other places. But what's interesting is that a lot of these, even though they're called 4X games, a lot of them seem to be very military focused, and a lot of the other stuff seems sort of like, well, it's just there because we have to have it there, but it's very meaningless, or it doesn't really make sense we haven't built it in as well as we could have. In Galciv 3, do you think you balance that stuff pretty well? Like, is it fun to do diplomacy? Is it actually a pretty deep system? Or, obviously you're going to tell me that it is, but I'm kind of curious where you think that
interesting enough
is.
That in my demo that I brought, I had a hard time because I actually personally play the game as a diplomat. And the way that works, and I'll show you when we do the Say game, is that you have this technology tree. Let me show you our tech tree, because this is something that most of the time 4X games will have what we call a very narrow tree. So that at the end of the game, everyone will have the same techs. And that makes it a lot easier for the AI. But in this game, so this is just one of your 4 tech trees that you get playing as the humans. And you have colonization, which is making your planets nicer. Engineering, which is, as the name implies, about building up your infrastructure. Warfare is only one of the trees. So these are different areas of the game that you can actually try to improve yourself as a civilization. Where it gets really interesting is that on governance, I can go and build up diplomatic points. And what that means is that the other players, it's not a matter of, oh, you're weak, we're going to kill you. And that's what usually happens. In these games, these 4X games, what often happens is that they'll say, well, we have all these ways to win, but the fact is, if you don't have a big military, everyone's going to gang up and kill you. Well, and the way we solved that, and we touched on it a little bit in the last Galactic Civilization, but this time we've had a lot of time to think about it, is that the technologies can actually give you what amounts to is diplomatic sway, savvy, so to speak. So they may think you're really weak, and they'll tell you when you meet the other aliens that you're really weak. And what I'll do is I'll go in that when we go into Say game, because in that one we've already met a bunch of civilizations, I've gotten into wars, and you can kind of see how that works. But so just in terms of the beginning of the game, so I'm on Earth, is that one of the big changes is that where you place things in the game matters on the planets. In Galciv, historically, every planet in the galaxy had a planet rating on a scale from, let's say, 1 to 20. The higher the rating, the better the planet. And that determined how many things you could build. Well, it's still that way, except now, we have adjacency bonuses. So if, like my colony capital, if I build, it gives me bonuses to anything I build adjacent to it. So I have to make some tough choices early on. And this is for anyone who's reviewing the game, one of the things that's also different is that we actually start out every player with a bunch of cash. 5,000 credits, space gold, whatever you want to call it, but 5,000. And the idea is that you can go and decide what your early strategy is right away without having to wait a bunch of turns of getting going. So I can literally come over here, go to my shipyard, choose to build a colony ship and just buy it. Now I'm using up my cash in doing that, but it allows me to, whatever my strategy is, maybe it's building up planets or claiming galactic resources. That's what this is here, is one of the, and I think that's an artifact over there. There's a lot of different ways as you get familiar with the game to execute on a particular strategy. Sure. So one of the things that's also different too, and this is, in every one of these 4X games, it seems like late in the game, it bogs down. I'm endlessly having to give build orders to things, right?
Right.
And we think we've nailed that here by splitting off the shipbuilding part of the game from the planet stuff. So in other words, the thing that builds ships is now a shipyard. It's actually on the map, and planets can feed into it. So you don't. Okay. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio. So it's not like whether in a typical 4X you have a colony or a city, and every city has building a unit or whatever. And by late game, I have 30 cities, so I'm constantly right. Well, I could have, if I wanted to, I wouldn't recommend it because talk about putting all your eggs in one basket. I could have one shipyard for my entire empire.
And then everything your cities are doing just feeds right into that shipyard, and everything's popping out of there.
Right, exactly. It'll make the ships go build faster. There's the further away they are from the shipyard, the more of a distance penalty you pay in terms of corruption or graft or whatever. But the point is that you have a lot more control over how much stuff is happening. So that's how a particular game begins. It's pretty humble. You're going off. There's these stars with their different planets around them. Let me go ahead and do a turn here. So let's see, here's our colony ship. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to found Mars. And when I first colonize a planet, the game does kind of walk you through, trying to give you a little bit of significance of, it's kind of a big deal. Colonizing a planet is non-trivial, sort of like invading a planet in this game. You can't invade a planet just by taking a fighter and attacking a planet and going into orbit and you've won. You have to actually build a transport with troops and send it over there. So,
a lot of detail, by the way, going into for example, the planet surface maps themselves. Obviously, with Earth, you have a great model to work from. As you move away from Earth, there's a lot more imagination that goes into that stuff because we don't know what those planets necessarily look like across their surfaces. But was there a lot of, like, with things like that are sort of known, like Mars, was there a lot of effort into modeling it more or less like as we know what Mars looks like right now?
Yeah, this is supposed to be an accurate version of Mars, and we actually had a version of this where we put water on it in order to get an idea where you could build on Mars.
Oh, right.
As you get further, the planets are actually randomly generated. So when you see a particular planet, you should never see it again.
Right.
So the main point is that we want every single game to feel like a new game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up a game where we've gone a ways, we're at war, and that sort of thing. All right, so here we are. Now we're 170 turns into the future. And I still have my shipyard, but now I've designed some ships. And I'm at war, so let's go ahead and look at we have Conquest Victory, Influence Victory. I'm nowhere near doing anything there. I'm not very influential in this particular game. Technology Victory, Ascension Victory, and Diplomatic.
Well, so much for diplomacy this time, anyway.
Yeah, unfortunately, trying to get good pew-pew does mean I'm less popular.
Exactly.
Now, this is a bigger map, and let's just give you an idea.
Oh, my Lord.
This is not by any means close to the biggest map in the game. I just didn't want to get a bigger map because what you can't see on camera is I'm running this off a MacBook, 4-year-old MacBook Pro. But the galaxy is big, and I haven't even, so 170 some turns, I haven't even gotten to most of the galaxy yet. So my particular issues are with my local galaxy cluster.
Right.
So let's see, when I go to govern, I currently have things a little bit more on tech because I found out as I was negotiating with our civilizations, I was a little bit behind. These are my various plant colonies and what they're building. This is one of my favorite things. I use this a lot. This is like the anti-micromanagement thing. I've always thought that every 4X game should have this, and that is I can literally say everyone who's building this should not build this. Or everyone who's currently sending something here should go here instead.
Right.
So in one click, I can instantly tell a whole bunches of ships or whatever to go somewhere else without having to go click, click.
One at a
over
time,
over.
one at a time. Yeah.
Yeah, so right now I have everyone who's going to unassigned should go to, and I have some rally points I can send them off to.
Well, that's fantastic. Like I mean, you see that sometimes in real-time strategy games where it's like units that aren't doing anything. But you always have to have units doing something in an RTS. And this, it's really easy in a turn-based game to get bogged down by like lots of units and having to go to each one and figure out what they're doing. That's a really great little thing.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, and another thing is, we were talking about this earlier. So you saw how big the galaxy is,
right?
That size galaxy would be one of those, oh, that's a neat checkbox, but who wants to play that big of a galaxy? It would be so micromanagement intensive late game. Or at least it would be for me. I mean, I love large games, and then until you get to them, and like every turn, you're just doing 50,000 things. But I only have 4 shipyards. So I have all these planets over here. These are but I only got 4 shipyards. They all feed into them. So I can go over here and I can edit my sponsors and decide how many who's feeding what very easily. These are the ships I'm currently building. I designed most of these myself just during the game. The game is really easy to design your own ships. I can literally go in and I'll do a new ship. And I can decide, at this point, my technology has allowed me to get to be able to build really big ships. So I come over here and start adding ship parts. It's literally like Legos. And people with talent have done some, as in not me, have done some pretty amazing stuff with this stuff. So think of this as like in Legos, the little red dots.
Right.
I like your sticky things in Legos. And then I can come in here, change the size. Put them on here. And I mean, you could like spend a lot of time doing this. And you can even export your designs to be 3D printed if you're really into what you've just made.
So with something like this, and I imagine I already know the answer to this, but I'm sort of curious. I mean, when you do stuff like this, is the cosmetic customization all separate from functionality? Like when I'm adding some large space in there, is it potential that's like, oh, I'm also adding like engine power, or I'm also taking away space that crews would need to live in, or things like that?
Not on the cosmetic part of it. That comes over to the equip area.
Okay.
So when I'm done with how I want my ship to look physically, I come in here and that's where I would put in like warp drive. So everything that has actual function uses space on the ship. It uses mass. And you only can have so much. The bigger the ship, the more stuff you can jam onto it. So for example, I can come in. Now how I choose to make hyperdrive look on my ship is up to me. So I can come over here and I can choose where I put it doesn't matter. It's so now I have 2 warp drive modules on here. I can come over to put some plasma pods. So I'll make this really state-of-the-art, and you can, and if you really want, if you're not into the ship design part, you can. The game will auto-generate ships for you if you just want to build like in a Civ-style game where I'm just building whatever my tech, or I can just come in here and just clickety click click, and it will just auto-place them.
So have you? I mean, the game's been in beta, and people are already playing it. I'll try to be nice about it, but what kind of things have people made? I mean, do people generally?
I think we both know. We both know what they've made. Don't act naive. We know. In fact, there was an article. My son's first thing they did with it. You know what the ship they made? I think we should not even say it. So, I have no doubt there will be a lot of phallic-looking ships.
But is that something that actually concerns you guys, or is it something like, well, that's just the nature of the thing, and if people want to make penis ships, they're going to make penis ships?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, I mean, they should be able to make whatever they want. Most people, though, I mean, based on what people have submitted, we get a lot. There's of Zooin Enterprises and Klingon ships and Star Destroyers and Transformers, because you can animate all this stuff too. It's not just static, and all kinds of crazy stuff. But like the main things you're trying to get out of your designs are what type of weaponry you have, what kind of defenses you have, because you need to look at what your opponent has. Are they if they're focusing on let's say missile-based weapons where they're firing rockets at you, then maybe you should be, and because technologically you're not really capable of researching up all the trees, right? If you're going up the missile-based weaponry technology tree, you're probably not going to have time to go in and do the phasers and
Right.
stuff. So if they're doing that, then you go, well, I need to research tech for point defenses or chaff and ECM and all that kind of stuff to kind of
Sure.
counter that. So that's where a lot of your decision making comes into play. So I'll come in here and you also have what kind of range, because you don't have unlimited. You can't just make a ship and fly to your side of the galaxy, especially on a big map. So you have to put in life support systems so that your people don't, starve before they get to their destination. You will also have how fast, which is where the warp drive comes in. And there's also things to add more hit points to the ship, but all these things use space. So when I get done here, I'll just call this we'll call it the Intrepid. No, let's see, the Warlock. I went back when early in the beta. I'm a big Babylon 5 fan, and I had made all the Earth Alliance stuff in there. So, meanwhile, over on so far in technology, I have actually gotten reasonably far in most of the areas. So, like on colonization, I've got enough stuff here where I can do better farming on planets. So the game really does emphasize when you're colonizing planets of, hey, there might be a pre-industrial society here. What are you going to do about them? Or there's disease, right? What if we landed on an alien planet? Have you ever read the book Guns, Germs, and Steel?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's a great book. But it kind of points out, if we were to go on another planet, even if we could breathe, I like that. Like they breathe. Okay, we can breathe. Everything's fine. It's like, yeah, you're probably going to die. There's all kinds of issues you run into and into that, because like I said, the game's supposed to be a sandbox.
Right.
It's not a let's go build a bunch of ships and kill the other guy.
In Prometheus, though, they all just kind of took a sniff.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, there's all kinds of problems that they have to work through there. So then, how big of ships? You can't just go and build Star Destroyers on turn one. In fact, at the beginning of the game, my first ships are called armed shuttles. Right? Like, if humans started going into space, we'd probably not even arm our ships because everyone's happy. And by late, so your first armed things are these armed shuttles.
Sure.
And in governance, I've been trading with different civilizations. So let's take a look at them. So since the game can support up to 128 opponents potentially, we had to do some interesting stuff with how we display different races here. We couldn't just go and put a bunch of pictures on the screen of their faces, because what happens if there's hundreds of them? So this is me. I can literally go over and mouse over everyone and see the inner ones are the people who like me. And the further out you get are the people who don't like me. And you can see what things, and you'll notice that everyone, and this was probably hopefully shows better up on camera, is that you can actually see why different people like you. And that has a lot to do with how their AI was set up. So some are peaceful, like Space Gandhi probably doesn't care that I'm militarily weak, if you had Space Gandhi in here. Whereas the Drengen over here, as soon as they saw they could conquer me, they declared war on me. So you do there's ways you can solve that though, by one, either giving them money, building up your diplomacy. Like in this game, I did put in some effort into, not as much as I should have, but into my diplomacy skill. So you'll see I have 3 pluses next to my diplomacy skill. That makes them like me. All it took is me investing time into researching diplomacy. But you can see there's a lot of people are at war with each other in this game. One of the big changes in Galactic Civilization III is this concept of ideology. This is another way in which, like I said, I know a lot of people do like to go in and make big fleets and blow each other up.
Sure.
But we do want to really send home the message that this is a game about what kind of civilization do you want to be. And so let me give you an example. My first colony ship, we go to Proxima Centauri. We land there, and it turns out there is a pre-industrial society there. What do you do about it? And the game will ask you questions like, well, if one option might be, well, excellent, slaves, right? That's an option. That another option would be, well, maybe we should, we need this space too. We can put them in reservations. Of course, that would never happen in real life, but that's an option. Or another one would be this was their world first. We will use the unoccupied parts of the planet. And each option has some pros and cons. Like if you choose to make them slaves, well, you get a productivity bonus, but you gain a point in malevolence. If you choose the more pragmatic view of well, we'll put them in reservations, and that you don't take a penalty per se, but you're not exactly a great guy either.
Right.
And if you do benevolence, which is the other one where you actually take a productivity hit, you get a benevolent point. And each of these gives you some benefits and some negatives as you go up. And as you run into other civilizations, they have gone up these trees too. So it gives you something either that, if you're a malevolent, bastard out there, then maybe the other guys will go, well, we're trading with you, but you guys are monsters. We need to take you out. Or if you're pragmatic, there's some other people who are nicer might not think you're not such a great guy either. But each of these has, as you get more and more points throughout the course of the game, you can go up this little grid and get more and more powerful attributes for your civilization.
Now, of course, your current civilization's fairly warlike.
Well, I actually went up and I started out for most of the game until I came through here because I have to show. It'll be a pretty boring game if I didn't show, or demo, I should say, if I didn't show some pew-pew.
Right.
So for most of the game, I was playing as a trading benevolent guy. So I'm actually pretty far up the benevolent tree. And in fact, you can, if I go here, I can go to Earth to report. And my overall ideology is benevolent. My race is productive. Because I'm the one who invented FTL drive, everyone stole from me. My ships go a little faster. We're organized. But every civilization, like the Thalen here, who I declared war on even though I shouldn't have, because they're going to destroy me. But that won't happen until after this demo. Actually, it might happen during the demo.
I'd like it to happen during the demo.
Yeah, I think I made some mistake. Well, one of the things on ship design I want to show, too, is that the ship design matters in terms also what kind of class you make your ship. I can make my ship a support ship or a capital ship, and I purposely made mine like really badly. I made bad choices on my ship design, which I'm going to pay for. So these are the guys I'm at warlike. They're pragmatic, and these are the things they like or don't like me for. They don't like me a lot because I attack them for no reason.
That'll do it.
Yeah, so like over here, that's fine. I have this battle ready to go. I put together these fleets. I have not actually seen how this will end. I literally was playing this morning at Starbucks, so this could go either way. So this is a fleet I've put together of my ships. I have the Vanguard, which is my new state-of-the-art. I just designed this. I'm very proud of it. It's the Vanguard has the latest in plasma weaponry. It's got good defenses. It's huge. Unfortunately, if I come over here actually it'll be easier if I show it here. What kind of 4X doesn't have graphs? If I look over on the technology side, I'm up against these guys. So this is their technology.
Dear Lord.
They're way ahead of me. So like on paper, they're pretty good. So I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna win though because I've set up the demo. So I get a little bit of cheat. I don't know though because their ships are so much better. But I can actually, the point of the battle viewer is that you can actually go in, and I'm going to go in here and I turn this to free, and I can go and look at every ship in here and see, all right, how are they doing? Is it range? What are my weapon? So he's got 20 phaser attack. See, all of his ships are really good, and he's getting first shot on my guy. So this is my Starhawk, which is my state-of-the-art fighter type ship. Oops, wait, where's the rest of my fleet? Oh, okay, way back there. This is where I was talking about the bad decisions were made, is that when you can classify your ships as a capital ship, which means they're a capital ship. They hang back a little bit. And I can also, I have some guys as escorts, and then I have a support ship. And then these guys are interceptors. So they're just running into battle and they're gonna get massacred. So this is one of those things where the game will give you a suggestion of what you should do with your ships. I ignored that advice and made something really bad to show off how your decisions do matter. So here, the mistake is that these guys ran up in the battle, and now everyone's going to concentrate on the Vanguard.
There's no one left to distract them.
Right, exactly. So that's the problem here. It's like I'm probably going to die even though I have this great ship because I was so foolish in the way I used them. I think that was really a bummer.
Oh, man.
So this is the case of I may have had on paper a pretty powerful fleet, but in practice, oh, that's right, I have this guy here. He's running away. Yeah, you didn't get away.
Yeah, he didn't make it.
I took out a couple of their ships.
When it comes to to the choices that you make, especially if you have a victory condition in mind, is there any benefit to mixing stuff up, or is it best to stick to very specific ways of handling things from the beginning? Or can I be like sort of maybe a little bit of a jack of all trades? Is that going to get me anywhere?
Yeah, the answer to that is it depends on how much you've played the game. When I first started during design, I had big dreams of I would have a plan and I would execute on that plan.
Right.
And that would lead me to victory. This game, I'm going to be a technological master, and I'm going to get that. The problem is that all my best plans are ruined as soon as they come into contact with opponents, because first of all, literal, in this case, space geography, can make or break everything. Like I know that you can't really tell. Let me do on the galaxy map here. If I turn off this other stuff here, turn off the ships, and I just see stars. If I were to zoom out and just show the galaxy, so this is the entire map, is that what I want to do and what I can do can depend heavily on geography. So like in this game, and I know it's like I'm looking at a tiny little corner of the map here, but I started out in this cluster. Now maybe I could, if I had started out in this isolated cluster up here, maybe I could have gone for a different technology, like a technology victory or ascension victory, because I would be literally isolated by a sea of stars, and I could build star-based defense outposts, and I did that here. You can't really tell because it's like, so, when you've been playing the game a long time, you know where everything is because you've been playing it. But I have built a series of star bases around my borders that wreak havoc on those who try to come in. So if I had a big sea of stars between me and the enemy, I could do that. I could do one strategy.
Right. So in other words, it's a strategy game where you actually have to pay attention to what's going on around you and other things other than just, this is my plan and I have to stick to it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if I start out with someone like the Altarians, who are really nice guys, and well, because I'm benevolent, they're benevolent, we're going to get along great. If they're my neighbors, I have different options than if I had started out next to basically the space Mongols here, the good old Drengen Empire, who literally want to eat us. In fact, an alarming amount of their dialogue. Whoops, I'm at war with him. Let's find out. Let's talk to. I'm not at war with the Yor. When I go and I negotiate with these guys, what they want and what I can give them is heavily dependent on how I've played the game, what their goals are. So maybe they'll give me stuff, maybe they won't, depending on what their personal objectives are.
Right. When I look at him, I kind of feel like I understand what his objectives are going to be for some reason.
He's not subtle. Yeah, the Yor don't like us. And one of the things is that every player, and from the modding point of view, you can go in and make it so that all these guys say very different things under infinite numbers of conditions. I mean,
right.
You can say if they're this and this and this right in the XML, then they, in this condition, they'll say this to you. And it's really fun, and a little bit, you can spend a lot of time, even if your job is working on something else. This is a Terran Alliance offshoot. They're like the Confederacy, good old Drengen. These guys want to do a lot of business. Oops. These are the Altarians. They're the ones who like us. Oh yeah, these are the ones. How about if we end this war? And let's see.
You must be joking.
Well, how about if I give them a bunch of stuff? Yes.
Ah, now they're like, okay, that sounds nice.
Yeah, so now I'm not at war. And I only got away with that because the Thaylen are pacifists.
Right.
So when I declared war on them for the demo, I kind of knew of a way I had to extricate myself from my stupidity. So That's essentially the basics of the game. Every game is different, and like I said, this map isn't even close to the largest map.
Right.
You can play on small maps. You can trade, make your own ships, just trade them with other people online. The same thing with other civilizations you want to make. That's pretty fun.
How is a typical game? I guess to close things out, I'm kind of curious. How is a typical game gonna? I mean, I imagine looking at maybe some of the largest galaxies. That this is a thing that depending on how I play, this could take me weeks. This could take me months to really see a conclusion, as it were. But is it possible to get to the point where there's sort of a stalemate? Or do you have it paced in such a way where it's always going to sort of lead to a conclusion, rather than me getting to the end of tech trees and getting sort of mired in constant struggles to either win or to at least not lose?
You can't get to the end of the tech tree.
Okay.
As a practical matter, there's too many techs that by the time you're like halfway done, the game, someone's going to have won the game. Another thing is that this game, the AI is will aggressive. The players will aggressively surrender. That is, if they know there is no chance, they will surrender to someone.
Right.
So they're not. It's not a case where, oh God, I have to go and conquer every last little. This guy has no chance, but he has 4 planets on the other side of the galaxy. It's like, no, he'll go and say, I only have 5% of the population. I have no military might. Everyone's mad at me. I'm just giving everything to this player.
Right.
And on a small, tiny map, you can finish that game in less than an hour. I mean, Galactic Civilization III has multiplayer in it. So we have these arena maps with only, it's really interesting too, because you have these arena maps where there's only like 5 planets in the whole galaxy, and you're fighting for them, and it's really small. Like, well, what do you do? Then what do you do? Those opening moves, how you spend that 5,000 credits at the beginning, really, that's why that early part of the game is so important.
Right. Well, Brad, in terms of housekeeping, there are always the usual questions I'm going to ask to finish things up with. So in a world where when is it finished means is a different question now than it was 10 years ago. But in terms of your 1.0, here is official release. When are we looking at?
Well, 1.0 is going to go out on May 14th.
That's really fast.
I know. We're just about done.
Boy.
We're about 4 or 5 days from releasing a release candidate for it. I know in the old days, this build that we're releasing on early next week would be the one that we'd be sending to manufacturing. But thanks to the miracle of digital distribution, we get to have essentially an extra month of polish. But in terms of the game being done, I mean, really, I hope that this game's never done. I mean, I've got the team and I. The engine that this is built on has been designed so we can expand on it for years and years to come. And I mean, I don't want to spoil things, but there's so much stuff that we can do with this.
Sure.
To make it just much more interesting and sophisticated as time goes on.
Well, GalCiv 2 thrived on expansions that came out afterwards. Is that sort of the model you're looking at, or is this just going to be like just a flowing river at this point, or are you going to be planning on larger modules that go on top later on?
Well, we're going to do both. There will be DLC. I know the art team is chomping at the bit at. So a lot of people get really, really into this ship design stuff, and so when you do that, I mean, and that's the sort of thing that makes sense as DLC, because people who aren't into the ship design, you don't want them having to pay for stuff that they won't personally use. So DLC that lets them build more interesting stuff here. Maybe we'll bring in some of our Star Control stuff into here. Who knows?
Well, Brad, thanks so much for coming by. Wow, I can't believe it was so soon. I had no idea it was that quick. Just suddenly upon me in the blink of an eye. But thanks for stopping by. Thanks for showing us Galactic Civilizations 3. And you can't drop something about Star Control 2 or Star Control and just leave it there. So hopefully you'll come back sometime soon so we can talk more about the things you guys are doing. But thanks for coming by, and I'm looking forward to playing the full game.